So I ran across this meme the other day. I think I forgot something. Well, if you forgot, then it wasn't important. Yeah, you're right. No, bad Zoro fans. Figure out why you like what you like before complaining about it. Okay, this bugs me. It's a minor gripe since I feel like there aren't too many people complaining about it, but to those who are, please stop complaining about it. I get the thought process here. Zoro and Sanji are always competing and often on nearly equal levels. So when Sanji fans get a year of the Sanji complete with Flashback, Zoro fans just gotta have the same thing. The problem is Zoro fans don't need a flashback outside of his initial flashback with Kuina. He just doesn't. Something I love about One Piece is that a lot of the Straw Hats feel like they were the main characters of different genres plucked out of their own series and plopped into One Piece. Sanji would be right at home on a Food Wars type show where his cooking is the main focus, and being a guy who kicks is just a weird quirk of his. Usopp is the resourceful trickery type shonen hero like Joseph Joestar, or even Dr. Stone from Dr. Stone, which is actually kind of where Nami's fights landed. And Chopper's introduction was just Oda retooling his fanfiction titled What If Blackjack Worked for Hot Santa? In that vein, Zoro would definitely be from the strongman 80s action series like Fist to the North Star. This series is about strong men doing amazing things. They have tragic backstories, and they're often very simple and hard-hitting moments that give them a very strong motivation. Outside of that, though, their goal in the story is to impress you. And finding new ways to impress you when you already think they're cool is, I imagine, a difficult way to write a character. Not everyone can write a character punching pressure points that make you release a pheromone that attracts carnivorous birds to come and rip you apart. Zoro is like Kenshiro. All he really needs is a driving motivation. If you start going too in depth, where he's from this island of the strongest warriors ever and has a bunch of needless lore, it stops being like Fist of the North Star and starts being more like Fist of the North Star 2. This is the kind of character Zoro is. I affectionately boil down his major fights in the series to Zoro says he can lift 1,000 pounds, Oda puts a 2,000 pound weight in front of Zoro and tells him to lift it. He does. Everyone cheers. The great thing about Zoro, I think, is how simple he is. He doesn't have a crisis of character. He doesn't falter and question himself. He doesn't fumble with the morality of who he is or what he does. He's too cool for that. Knowing that, I ask, what on earth would he have a flashback for? There would be nothing to explore. If you show him going through some sort of crisis of character in a flashback, guess what? That wouldn't feel like Zoro. If you show him as a cool guy doing something cool, guess what? You've got a filler episode. I guess if you really wanted to retread old ground, you could go back to before the Kuina flashback and give him another thing that initially motivated him to be a swordsman. That'd fit his character, and great, we've killed Kuina a second time by making her entirely irrelevant. Good job, fans, see what you brought. If you wanted to say Zoro should have gotten more cool moments in Wano, where he did impressive things and looked cool and strong more often, then I'd get you. I'd probably even agree with you. A good Zoro arc should be Zoro having a ton of cool moments and maybe some lore about swords. In that respect, I think Wano did him decent. But if you want your favorite character to have a year of manga releases that focus on his tragic past where he fights and overcomes a moral dilemma and struggles with conflicts in the present day that can't be resolved with fighting, well, it turns out you're actually a Sanji fan. And Sanji fans, I'm not letting you off the hook. I remember hearing all around that people were upset that Sanji never got a proper fight during Whole Cake Island. You know, the arc where he got a lot more depth, complete story focus for a full year, a wonderful flashback, a hot sister, heartfelt scenes left and right, and more attention than any other Straw Hat except maybe Jinbei since the time skip. I get that Sanji fights are cool and all, but Sanji's character isn't about cool fights. At the risk of sounding corny, I'd say his character is about passion. He's overly passionate in the best and worst ways, and Oda likes exploring that dichotomy a lot. His fights are cool, but often it's only after he's been the punching bag just before it. Being a Sanji fan is appreciating his best and worst moments. Except for that moment. We're just gonna get that out of here. Just get away. And in the year of Sanji, it felt like Oda wanted to reiterate that for fans who lost track of this aspect of Sanji's character. So he crafted an arc where Sanji needed to resolve a conflict with his passion for love and his passion for cooking, and not with a fight. In fact, he made the opposing force, Germa 66, passionless fighting machines to iterate the point that it is not what Sanji is. He's fighting against that very notion that the core of his character is not that of a fighter, but a cook. So if you were ever complaining online that Sanji was screwed over by Oda for not having a fight in Whole Cake Island, well, I'm not going to be mean and say you didn't even pay attention to the story in the slightest, but I will write it down on this chalkboard. Sanji's silly, Sanji's cool, Sanji's a simp, Sanji's cringe, and Sanji's lovable. If you want Sanji to be a cool badass who says one-liners after kicking ass and taking names, busting out cool moves every few years, and stopping with the goofy antics, guess what? You just want him to be Zoro. It baffles me that just because they butt heads with each other in the same way, that so many fans of these characters think Sanji and Zoro must be treated equally in all ways, and not in a way tailor-made for them. Especially since there seems to be such a strong rivalry between the Zoro stans and the Sanji stans. Seriously, if you want them to both be badasses with backstories and moral quandaries, but also stay cool and collected and beat the strongest enemies, it seems to me you don't actually like these characters for who they are, you just want them to be fighting game color palette swaps of Ichigo Kurosaki. I went a bit aggro with this one, but I just like to play up the drama. A lot of my hot takes are kind of just excuses for me to compliment what I like about One Piece. Just like in my video about me liking that Yamato didn't join the crew, it just kind of turns into me gushing about a certain scene in the show, so check it out if you're interested.